Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digital,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digital TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Our viewers, good morning. My name is Kanyeihamba. We are streaming live on our social media pages. That's the Alternative Uganda and also the Digital TV. And every Wednesday around this time, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba to discuss a number of issues, especially those that happen 7 days earlier, because we last met here last week, Wednesday. And there are so many things that have taken place in this country, both here in Uganda and globally. I will ask Justice Kanyeihamba to say hello to the viewers, and then we shall proceed from there.
Hello, viewers. You are most welcome again. Thank you.
Okay. Today is 8th. Internationally, it's International Women's Day, where women are celebrated either by their contributions that they have made to this world, in as far as either human rights, governance, socio-economic development, and so many things. As far as I know, Justice Kanyeihamba has written several books, and one of the books has a title, "The Women He Has Loved," and not taking the literal meaning of loving. It's a different loving. So, Justice Kanyeihamba, let's begin from there, and we see whether or not women are worth celebrating.
After making the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, which is still the supreme law of Uganda, women, led by Mrs. I forget his name, the owner of Pep Scholar.
Maggie Chigozi.
Yes. Not Magozi.
Maggie.
Is another name.
Another?
Yes, the owner. Chigozi may be a director. But you can find it out later. His wife, who had been a student of mine at Makerere, together with several judges, other students who are now judges, she convinced FIDA, the women's organization, to honor me by awarding me honorary womanhood. You can ask her. So when I speak about this subject, I speak as a fellow woman, but honorary, because there are some bits missing from my body. That story was widely and incomplete published by New Vision and by Monitor for 2 following days. On the Women's Day that year, I published the book.
And the following
and
day.
the following day.
8th and 9th.
Yes, they responded them. They repeated them. And the editors congratulated me. Today, the manager, editor of New Vision and of Monitor have been instructed, according to my information, never to mention the name Kanyeihamba again. And you don't have to inquire. You will see that they don't. My name cannot appear there. But unfortunately for them, I am also here for a long time by the grace of God and the technical knowledge of our doctors who love my work and appreciate my stand on public issues. So, when we were making the Uganda Constitution, I was the prime mover, assisted by Honorable Byanyima Besigye, the daughter of the late Boniface Byanyima, and Hope Mwesigye, later to dismantle the provision on term limits as minister, and Cecilia Ogwal, the Iron Lady of the DP.
UPC, Cecilia Ogwal. Was she
Or rather of the UPC. They then rather most important party, political party in Uganda, and now Mrs. Babu Ziwa.
Margaret Ziwa.
Margaret Ziwa, who later became the Speaker of the East African Legislature. We built the rights and the code for the protection of women and their dignity. We often sat in the conference center for hours, the 5, 6 of us, talking about human rights. Matembe was one of the best movers of the provisions of the Constitution that now protect the life and dignity of women in Uganda.
Did you have Speciosa?
Pardon?
Did you have Speciosa Wandira Kaziwe at the time, or she wasn't part of you people?
No, she wasn't part. At that time, I think she was a doctor. She was elected later. She was a doctor, I think, practicing in Nakawa. And she was not a member
of your team.
Of Parliament. At the time, we formed these bodies and the committees, but she was a member of this Constituent Assembly.
CA.
She has been elected a member of the Constituent
Assembly.
And
your friend,
Sekitoreko was not a member of CA. She's a friend of mine even today. She's a director of Kanyeihamba Foundation, of which you are a co-founder, Norman. And the directors of Kanyeihamba Foundation include women. Actually, they are dominated by women. She's a director. The trustee of the foundation is none other than Rebecca Kadaga, the former Speaker of Parliament, who was campaigned against by some NRM people and was defeated by another friend of mine, her former deputy speaker, but later elected with support of Museveni
to lead
the leader and the chairman of the NRM, Speaker of Parliament. His name was Jacob Olanye. This is the circle I moved in, interacted with, when we were making the 1995 Constitution, which even today women praise as the best protection they have ever had in Uganda. We made it. Our movement, rather our amendments to the old system, were always accepted almost inevitably. When the women said, you know our power and what we are capable of doing to you men. Many men supported it for fear of their wives, remembering the American saying of a proud husband, that I am the master in my house. Therefore, whatever my wife says shall be done without question. And then you wonder if you're logical, who is the master, the wife or the husband? So I am very proud, Norman, that I was part and parcel of the team which enhanced women's rights and protected them, and they are still today regarded as the best provision in the constitutions of Africa. That is something to be proud of. And if ever God takes me, that's what will be remembered. Because I have reflected it in many of my publications.
There are so many reactions in regards to whether or not these women have lived to serve the purpose for which they are even celebrated. The other week when we were here, I am sure you remember that most of the people that had run away with the iron sheets for Karamoja. First of all, the Prime Ministry is led by a Prime Minister who is a lady, that's Nabanja. And it's the same Prime Ministry that is fond of having all this kavuyo, for lack of another word. The Minister for Karamoja, who ran away with, I think, 3,000 or 6,000 also iron sheets, is a lady. The State Minister is a lady. I mean, your friend Rebecca Kadaga, who also ran away with some iron sheets, is a lady. Are they worth celebrating?
I've been calling Kadaga, my friend Rebecca Kadaga, to ask her comment. Why did you receive those mabatis, iron sheets? One of those who received about 4 million worth of iron sheets is the Minister of Planning. And for him, actually, he says those mabatis
are evil.
Evil
iron sheets.
So we could ask him, why did you expect evil
in the first place?
But his statement is absolutely absurd. He says, I am going for the 4th term as a member of parliament. And you cannot go for parliamentary election unless you have a lot of money. So I use those Mabati I received. He doesn't deny. I used the other Mabati to build my goat's shed so that I can get a lot of money, bribe voters, and be elected. That is his statement. No money, you can't believe what is happening in this country. I know we should have started with it, but I remind you to ask me a question about my late friend, whom I never met, but who used to admire tremendously as a judge of the Court of Appeal Constitutional Court,
Justice
Kenneth. who passed away over the weekend.
We shall definitely discuss about him.
That's right.
So
let me say therefore me, I am very, very proud and happy that the Constitution, of which I was advisor of the makers and the chairman of the legal drafting committee, has done very well. As you have enumerated, because many of those women, we could not guarantee would be corrupt. You have mentioned so many, including actually, I have not heard any bad things about her. The Speaker of Parliament is also a woman.
Well, wasn't she? I think she was mentioned, and her defense was that when she went to her district, she found those iron sheets, and she did not also know how they flew from either the Prime Minister.
Still there?
Yeah, she confessed that she saw them in her district, Bukedia, and she went ahead to say that she did not ask for them. She doesn't even know how they reached there, and she was like, the minister should carry their own
But that
cross.
is not convincing, my brother.
That's what she said.
No man, you are a human being. I believe in your integrity. If you found a lot of cows in your compound, would you distribute to other people without finding out how they got there and who is owner?
Maybe it's a miracle. It could be a miracle.
So, I am afraid my disappointment with that saga is that no minister or official who was involved in this scandal has offered to resign. Do you wait for others to tell you that you are strictly wrong? Even that one who said these Mabatas were evil, shouldn't you resign? He proudly said, I have now removed those Mabatis of Interior for Karamoja from my goat shed. And nobody will again choose me of corruption. Then my question is, when you remove Mabati from a building, they become scrap metal. You can't use them for anything else. Is he going to replace them? He avoided saying that word. So his story is not correct. It is covering corruption, and we cannot accept it. President Museveni, where is he? He has kept quiet on that.
Yeah, hasn't said anything in regards to the
But you see, if you are a president of a country, sovereign head, that's the only time he is immune from legal process. In other respects, as the leader of government of Uganda, not of the country, but of the government of Uganda, as commander-in-chief of the army, and as the chairman of the NRM political party, he is liable. He is under the law, and he is liable for any crimes he commits or are committed in his name. Ugandans have a habit of going for one thing and say it's the answer of all. Many lawyers even today, including judges, believe that the Museveni is above the law and the God. No priest, no bishop, no archbishop, except the two. The Mufti of my area here, Machinje, who happens to be a friend of mine as well, but he's a religious man, and the younger bishop of Ankole Diocese have denounced the judgment of the Constitutional Court, holding in favor of President Museveni, who was not even a party to the proceedings, having
As being above
said publicly that I withdrew from this threat. I leave the matters to the judiciary and its discretion. And I personally, and the other petitioner remaining, we thanked him for being a statesman and a president who loves his country. The judges led by Uganda Ntende knew all that. But when we filed our petition, they immediately wrote their judgment without hearing us first or hearing the Attorney General, because they are the only one who are remaining. The judgment should be in our favor, or if not, it should have been in favor of the Attorney General or the NRM party. In either case, we would have appealed anyway to the Supreme Court. We have already appealed. We have summoned the two archbishops of Uganda, Archbishop Semugerere, the Catholic Archbishop of Uganda, and the Archbishop of Uganda, who is the leader of all Protestants in Uganda, to appear in court, in Supreme Court, as witnesses. Let's see what they will say. Every time they are interviewed by the press, they keep quiet. How can a bishop or an archbishop and the Grand Mufti of Uganda keep silent when their master, Allah, whom I have called God, is under attack and is belittled by the courts of by a court of Uganda, that the God, Allah, and the law of Uganda, under which Museveni swears, to uphold in the name of God and my country. How can he be above
both?
Both. So I want to leave it there to say, for me, I am glad that Museveni has agreed for a committee to be set up to deal with that matter. They have also set up a committee to deal with NSF corruption.
That's the same thing I also wanted to ask. You know,
and the accusation of homosexuality.
The Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development is also a lady. So is it becoming a norm, a norm that most of the ministries where ladies are in charge, you will find trouble there? You have seen how how the commission, the committee rather,
you see,
recommended
President Museveni, in my latest lecture on public law, I have forgiven him. Because his former senior ministers, on their own invitation, invited me. He said, Kanyeihamba, you are wrong to criticize Museveni. I said, why? He said, many of the letters you write,
they never reach him.
Many of the other people, criticism they make of him, he never receives. He simply trusts his ministers and the cadres. They are telling the truth. But they are all lying to him, and their excuses and explanation never reach him. That's why I have apologized to him for criticizing his governance when he actually is in ignorance of what people do. I was his minister more than 20 years ago. I was his minister for 2 terms. He was supposed to retire according to our constitution at the age of 75. He's now 81 years old. I am 83. As Boniface, his mentor and relative, told me that I am only 2 years older than Museveni. Why doesn't Museveni contradict his mentor, Byanyima? He's keeping quiet. In Africa and in law, Uganda law now, if they challenge you to a statement, you must answer. Originally, the law was you cannot convict someone for an offense because he was silent. But today, the law has changed. We changed it. You must answer.
Say something.
Where it is reasonable for the public and the judges to know this question, you are the only one who can answer it. If you don't answer it, then you can assume you are guilty as a charge. The Uganda judges have said that. But the lawyers, magistrates, judges, don't do it. If you look through my window, I can't see the lake. There is a tree blocking me. Another tree is planted immediately at my gate, which is my land. So a lawyer has been told. Then the mayor of Kampala sent a woodcutter. Please, Kanyeihamba, don't take us to court. The cutter came here. I have come to cut these trees. I saw it was that day, but he disappeared. Then we called him. You can ask one of the people, we shall give you a name, but you call him. You came to Professor Kanyeihamba to cut the trees which are blocking his view and his compound in his land on side. And you said you are coming. The mayor of Kampala, of Machinde, has sent you to fell those trees. You came to Kanyeihamba. And his family and the driver were there when you made the statement. Then you said, I'm coming shortly. You have never returned. Because you said the saw and axe I was going to use apparently are under repair.
For the whole...
and they are still there.
Maybe before we go into our break, I want to ask you, I think on a scale of 10, to tell the viewers on whether the women you people fought for have really lived their expectations in regards to...
I will be generous.
Yeah, out of 10.
And give them 1.5% success.
You see, Prof,
because I'll tell you what. I once cited for Kadaga
1.5
and Oranya when they were still
speakers of parliament.
Yes, of parliament. That when the king of Uganda, I think it was one who was beheaded, Edward, was king, he was the supreme ruler of any given country. So some of the MPs talked about him, not in a complimentary manner. And he stormed the parliament. Remember, he's a supreme ruler. And he asked the speaker, whose name was Hungerford, the first speaker in Britain. He said, Hungerford. Hungerford said, sir, he said, there are MPs here who defamed me and despised my kingdom. I want to know them so that we can hang them.
Hangford wants to hang.
Hungerford
wants to hang.
should be remembered in Uganda. The first speaker in the British Parliament. So he looked at the king, frightened, trembling, and he said, "Sorry, the king said, "Yes, I have neither the eyes nor the ears to hear, but as is directed by this honorable house." Those are famous words which normally, please, you should put on the media regularly. I have neither the eyes
nor the ears.
nor the ears to hear what to say or do or speak except as directed
By the house.
by this august house, Parliament. The king fumed on the mouth with anger. But he knew Parliament also had the authority to order for his beheading. So he withdrew from the Senate. Here we have a provision in the Constitution that if President Museveni does not consent to a bill passed by Parliament, then they should submit it to him for second consideration. If
Again,
he keeps the same position, Parliament should bypass him and pass the law themselves. He has refused the second time. Parliament is still quiet. In the Power of Africa,
the unexpected
I have written
happens.
a book, The Unexpected Happens.
Gentlemen and ladies, we will be back in a minute also. In fact, half a minute. Just have, briefly, we're coming back. Don't go away. We are still with Justice Kanyeihamba, but for purposes of emphasis. Ladies in governance, this gentleman, Professor Justice George Wilson Kanyeihamba, has given you 1.5 out of 10. So check yourselves. We're coming back shortly.
So there you have the minister of NSSF.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digital,
as he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Viewers, thanks for your patience. We're back, and we'll definitely run straight to ask Justice Kanyeihamba talk about the two fallen heroes, if I may say. We have one of them is your OB. I did not know that you shared the same school with now the late John Nagenda Mwiri. Were you with him in the same year when he was at Mwiri College? Or?
No, I did not find here at Mwiri. I went there in, I believe, 1957? No, 56. I can't remember. I remember many people who were my classmates. People like Nabgiso, Professor Nabgiso. He was staying in Wilson House with me. I was house prefect. I remember people like Wante. I remember people like Peter Otai, the Iron Man of UPC. At our time, he was the prefect of the school, and I was head prefect and head of Wilson School with the late Nsaja, former Lord Mayor of Jinja, who was a strict man. I don't remember his religion, but I think he was Protestant. And when there was a shortage of paint in the country, he painted the pillars and walls of Jinja town, now a city, with the only available paint, rather, no, what is the DP?
Green.
Green, yes. Quite right and technical, because that it was the only paint available in the country. Then UPC diehards of Jinja accused him to Obote that because he has painted the town green, he's a hidden DP supporter. And the UPC leadership fell for it, and they immediately sacked him, sent him a letter, you are relieved of your duties as mayor of Jinja. The Basoga have got a sense of humor. So did my former teacher, housemaster Nsaja. He wrote to the UP Secretariat. I think it was either Kakonje or Ibinjira, I can't remember. And he said, sir, with a sense of irony, my lord, I agree, rather, I accept your termination of my services as mayor of Jinja. But before I go, what do you advise me to do with the trees and the grass in Jinja town, which, from my humble understanding, were put there by Almighty God? What shall I do with them? And he packed his things and left, leaving that stinging stick, or rather sting, in the UPC body. That was in Saja.
So, in short, you didn't start. You did not. You weren't in. By the time you were at Mwiri College, it's not the same time when now the late Nagenda was there.
Yes.
But
according to the records they have released, he died at the age of 84, but I am now 83. So he was slightly older than me, but we all went to school very late. So maybe he was at Mwiri, even older than me, because I was one of the youngest.
at the time.
Yes, who went to Mwiri but I didn't find him there. I find the likes of Twanyalale, Mpuga, there, 2 years ahead of me. I don't know when my friend John Naganda was there. But we were to meet several times. I was to visit him at his house on 2 occasions in Mengo, near Namirembe. He has a house there near Namirembe. And I met later his wife, Marion, a charming and entertaining lady. Very quiet, unlike John. So let me talk about him. John Nagenda had no equals or likes in this country, Uganda. When he was quarreling with me, we quarreled on several occasions, which those who are talking about are avoiding to say. On issues he supported and I didn't, or those I supported, policies and he didn't. He was a very frank, brutal critic of anybody who disagreed with his position. The late Hope Chivenjeri, the first confidential person to Museveni, did a great job, not only for Museveni, for the people of Uganda, as confidential secretary to President Museveni. Then one day, I praised her work for the president and the Uganda. This gave an opportunity to my friend, now acting as Nagenda, to blast me for what I said about
Hope.
And he said laconically, what did you expect of Kanyeihamba? He had to defend his girlfriend. Hope, we had never been friends. I don't think she ever even had a time in her lifetime before she died for having a boyfriend. Such pleasures were beyond her dignity and the service to the people of Uganda. But she's the one who came to UK, sent by her father,
Festo.
Evangelical Festo Chivenjeri, to recruit me. She came accompanied by the former UPC diehard, Peter Otai, my former schoolmate at Midi. They find me teaching law in Cardiff. And the Hope told me, my father, your bishop, Chivenjeri, has said you must come and join Museveni in the fight against Idi Amin. I agreed. Later, I followed her. Peter had wanted me to join the UPC because I was a Protestant. But I chose to join the NRM movement, not because I knew Museveni, but the movement had better policies to offer and implement than the UPC. But now I regret that Museveni turned the movement into a corrupt political party. And in corruption, president and the movement party, political party, have done much worse than Obote ever did, or
I mean,
what is his name? Adi. Not Ali.
Amin,
Yes. General Amin Evadi. I have written the first annual lecture on the rule of law, published by the Kanyeihamba Foundation, of which Honorable Kadaga, now you tell me, she's among those who received honoraries, and Bete Bigombe, the former Supreme of Northern Uganda, and the bitter opponent of Konye, and the Lakwena, the prophets.
In regards to, both of you have served as senior presidential advisors.
Yes.
Do you think Mr. Nagenda's advice at some point has been
no, it has been useful.
Adopted or something to?
Some of his advice has been faithful. Others failed. I let you one of them where he failed. When I became Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the chairman of the Human Rights Violations Commission was Justice, also late, Asa Odell, written O-D-E-R. He was appointed the chairman by my best man and the then Minister of Justice, Joseph Mulenga, now departed. So when I became minister, Nagenda wrongly thought that I would react to his insistence that I sack Odell and replace him with somebody more acceptable, although he didn't suggest who. I looked him in the eye, I said, why? The answer he gave me, I will not give you. But I refused. I refused. I said, Odell, I studied with him in the UK. I am the one who recruited him in the judicial because of his integrity and the sense of justice. There is no one I can replace him with. Odell finished his work against the advice of Nagenda, who was a member of the commission, investigating violations in the human rights industry. But we remained friends. Nagenda was a gentleman. He didn't dislike me for that. He smiled. I asked in my obituary I have sent to be published in Monitor or New Vision, whichever is willing, that I wonder if John was alive. He died on the same day we were talking about the scandal of the iron sheet. I am asking in that obituary I have sent, and I hope it will be published. I wonder what John Nagenda would have said about this scandal. I said, he would have said, you don't say, in the quote, you don't say. Those are the very classical words of John Nagenda used to say. And then he would proceed to blast those ministers and officials of NRM who have stolen those iron sheets. Then I say lastly that you should always tell the truth.
No matter how bitter.
No matter how bitter or disappointing to those who admire the personality. I want to say that John Nagenda was a very proud and arrogant fellow. But he wrote things which were moving and wonderful. One reviewer yesterday, or was it the day before, said Nagenda was the greatest writer of all time. You can read it as people. But he forgot Kanyeihamba alone. Late another Ugandan. We have written more books, commented in the media more than John Legend, with the lengthy anecdotes than Nagenda ever published. How do you, if you are a Ugandan knowledgeable person, I'll not mention him, you find him in newspaper, say Nagenda was the greatest writer of all time. Where?
maybe, Prof, it's now a culture of writing, such sweet words after one has passed on. Maybe that's what people, especially Ugandans, have failed to appreciate the living heroes. It's until so and so has passed on that they will have such sweet words and articles than appreciating.
You are repeating the precise message by President Museveni. President Museveni is one of those who has reviewed my books, written a foreword on my Kanyeihamba's contribution on the work and the life of Canon Bikangaga. Museveni is the one who has written a foreword. I don't know whether he has written many forwards to other writers. If you look at his picture there, although he's one of the greatest critics, he's there. He's my friend. Even now, you see him there with my family. He's entertaining it at the State House in Entebbe. One corrupt general by the name of I have forgotten his name.
Which one? The one of State House Anti-Corruption?
Yes, in order to threaten me, he writes letters from State House in Entebbe and addresses them so that I pretend being written by Museveni. It's a G. You'll find out.
You mean it's okay? Or?
It's okay, yeah. It's okay. The chairman of the Presidential Anti-Corruption Unit, rather commission, is the unit chairman, not Kategaya, not John Kategaya. Solicited a bribe of 1 million shillings. I was with my driver, David, you can ask him. And he said, that is not enough. He consulted mostly General. What do you call him?
You mean who? General Isoke? Is it
General Isoke. And was told that is not enough. Then I said, what is enough to remove land grabbers to my land? And do you know, he said, you are a judge. You ought to know. He didn't understand my intelligence. Said, therefore, some judges who want assistance from this commission have been paying. Eventually, I discovered, because somebody told me from there, if you give us 2 million shillings, we shall do it. I recently sent condolences, rather sympathy messages, to my friend and the widow of my late friend, Joanna Kategaya. She's now senior presidential advisor. I called her yesterday. She was very angry. She said, Prof, we must flush out these criminal ministers and the government officials. She was referring to General Isachi and the scandals of NNSFF and Iron Sheets.
Okay. In our remaining minutes, I want you to comment, like in a minute or two, about your fellow now fallen Justice Kenneth Kakuru, whom you off record said you hadn't met him.
I never met him in life, but I enjoyed and approved 100% his integrity, judgment. One of them a dissenting judgment about presidential issues, where I wrote in my land review that had I been on that court, a panelist, I would have agreed 100% with my land friend, now departed this world, Kenneth Kakuru. And maybe between us, we would have convinced the majority, who included the now Chief Justice of Uganda, Owinyedolo, to reverse themselves, and we find for the petitioners. I said it yesterday. His residence is not near from me. Yesterday, I went there and I met his mourning family. His body may be returning today or later, I don't know. He died in Nairobi in the Aga Khan Hospital of cancer. But he died fighting for justice of Ugandans. And since only a few days before he was admitted in Nairobi Hospital, he had been presiding and participating in a number of cases before the Constitutional Court. Such Ugandans are no more. It seems God has abandoned us. He wants the kind of Justice Kakuru and senior presidential advisor Nagenda, John Nagenda, to join him. God wants them to join him and do honest work in heaven. I am not joking. I had a priest in the UK, and someone died in our street. I attended the funeral. And he said, "You people, why do you cry? On us, we have lost a relative and a friend. But in heaven, God and the angels welcoming him as a newborn to do God's work." I have never forgotten that sermon. At first, you think he's cynical. I want to tell you, many lawyers I called him to represent me, including those well known. And they claim, "We have lost a relative. My uncle is dead. My nephew or his wife is dead. The oldest man in our village who's dead." I have concrete evidence that when you are dead, you don't have a memory. You never remember people who have honored you to come and bury you, put soil over you. When you are dead, you are no more in life, in this life. And Jesus taught us, Many of these are broccoli. They say I am the saved one. But they don't follow Jesus' example. You remember what he said when he was preaching? Let the dead bury their dead. You look after the living. All Christians, including our religious leaders, never remember the teaching of Jesus. We have a constitutional court judgment which says Museveni won the petition when he was no longer party to the proceedings. They have gone further as a Museveni, and I think that's what they were only interested in, is above the law. These judges headed by Uganda attend. No, Museveni swears under the law, so he can't be above it. And the God, so he can't be above God. But they're saying, and he's above God. Engonda Ntende, Elizabeth Musoke, and one judge who is supposed to come giving the lead judgment. I think she's called Monica Mugenyi. She's the one who gave it. And do you know that's a judgment? She wrote it and signed it before the appearance appeared in court. She also gave it when the respondents, the Attorney General of Uganda, Chiwanuka, and the NRM party lawyers had contemptuously ignored the court order saying they must respond to the appearance submissions within 5 days. They never did in another country. And when I was a judge of the Supreme Court, if a thing like that happened, we there and then, without moving from our chairs, give judgment. And because I was one of those very fast writers, the Chief Justice, both Wambuzi and Odochi would say, Kanyeihamba, can you please prepare our reasons for the dismissal of this appeal tomorrow? Then if I knew I could do it tomorrow, I would say yes. Or I would say, can you give me 2 more days? That, if you look at the proceedings in the Ugandan courts, particularly Supreme Court, you'll find it. Many people know that in 2006, presidential petition, all of us, including the Chief Justice Odochi, gave our individual findings as Article 104 demands. And we were all unanimous. The 2006 petition should be repeated because neither President Museveni, by the way, when he is even a candidate, he remains president of Uganda. Did you know that? He never ceases to be president of Uganda. Otherwise, you would find it written and said by the Judicial Service Commission, rather by the Judicial Service Commission and the Election Commission, that when there are elections and the president is a candidate, the assistant, rather we call them the deputy. No, he's not even deputy. Who is his assistant?
You mean the vice president?
Yes, the vice president. The president shall act as a president. It's not there.
Yeah, here this one doubles as a
So
candidate.
he doubles as a presidential candidate.
And
He
as a
continues
president.
carrying out his duty as
Head of state.
As head of state. He doesn't stop. But the lawyers, including shamefully the court of the Constitutional Court, where Elizabeth Musoke, another justice, had been promised, and they were elevated before the judgment to the Supreme Court. And then one attended, according to reports, had been told, if you find Kanyeihamba lost this case, if you rule that Museveni won it, we shall make you the new Chief Justice and replace, I hope he's listening, replace Doro Owinye, who has let us down as the Chief Justice. Indeed, he has let them down. Because if you know, he clashed with President Museveni. And Owinye Doro was saying the rule of law was wrong, rather the right to bail was settled long time ago. And we don't need to do anything about it. That clash was in Monitor and in New Vision of the time. Then Museveni threatened that if the judiciary cannot do it, I will do it. And he proposed to call a caucus.
NRM caucus?
NRM caucus. The word caucus, or that term, does not appear in our constitution. It was invented by the NRM. He would call a caucus. They would help him to modify or abolish the right to bail. Then he ran. Museveni is clever and very, very sensitive. He had that among the petitioners was Justice Kanyeihamba, who had already defeated him, defeated Museveni, which you journalists fear to say. But I hope you will broadcast my talk today. I had defeated him when he attempted to expel the NRM rebels from parliament, who included Muhammad Nseko, Sechkubu,
Tinka Simiri and
yes,
others.
you know them. They remain members of parliament. As a result of Kanyehamba's defeat of President Museveni. No Ugandans, not even the bishops, except that of Mbarara, are prepared to say or hear that news. So let me tell you, my brother, Justice, our Chief Justice, and you people just ask him, he recently said, when he was being interviewed by the brave journalist, Derika Chiyonga, who asked him that the Constitutional Court said military personnel should no longer try in tribunals civilians and the citizens of Uganda who are not
Military officers.
in the army, UPDF. Then it is shocking the courts and the judges have not mentioned it. Chief Justice added, when Chiyonga asked him, there is a case pending, a judgment pending from you, Mr. Chief Justice. You remember that the Attorney General, Dr. Chiwanuka, appealed against the judgment of the Constitutional Court, holding that civilians should no longer be tried by military tribunals. You finish hearing that judgment, says Chiyonga, and you ruled to everybody that you will give your judgment on notice. Just as Kanyeihamba reminded you today, Mr. Deputy Chief Justice Butera, Richard, that you gave the answer on the same day when the petitioners asked you when their judgment would be delivered. You were on not the panel, but you said it shall be given on notice. They also ask you the judgment in 320 others versus Professor Kanyeihamba, when judgment in that case would be delivered. Fortunately, on that one, you were the chairman of the panel. And you also said it will also delivered on notice. That one, that was last year. But up to now, you have never directed the registrar of the court when to fix the judgment of that appeal. So lastly, on that issue, you have not said or agreed with the Chief Justice that when a case has been heard and adjourned for delivery of judgment, if one of the penalties, as my brother said, has passed away this weekend, Kenneth Kakuru, if that situation happened, all the cases they were involved in, whether reserved for judgment or not, have been stopped.
Till they replace.
And the case be heard again. Those cases being heard again. But since the president has not appointed the replacement of appeal in your case, who was a judge of the Supreme Court, and he has decided a passed on, you are waiting for the president to appoint his replacement. Then you will hear the case afresh, and that's when you will give judgment. And not even the Chief Justice or any judges of the courts of Uganda have questioned that opinion. I have. But of course, I'm told there are orders that my question should never be answered or responded to by any judge or journalist.
Your closing remarks, we seem to be short of time already. We have gone past time. And also to inform you that Professor Mondo Kagonyera is already in the house. and we would want to hear your closing remarks and then let you have let you entertain your guest. Your closing remarks in just
on the launch of the book on which you organized and conducted very successfully. The one you have told me,
Professor Mondo.
yes, Professor Mondo, who is my maternal nephew, although we are about the same age, said at that launch, it is said that all lawyers are liars. I am glad to hear. I am going to continue my conversations with him in this house. If you are able, you come back at 2 o'clock. We are having a wonderful dietitian addressing us at 2 in this house. And Kagonyera is anticipating that discussion, but he's come earlier in his capacity as a close relative. Thank you very much.
Okay, our viewers, catch you today evening. We are hosting Honorable Ferguson at 7 p.m. Ugandan time, and Guyanese time. It's going to be midday in the Afro-Caribbean show today at 7. See you. May God bless all of us, for God and my country.
Thank you. Can I get my bottle quickly, please?
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.